Fellas, let's talk. Let's talk business here. Why I would buy this Ford and why I would not buy this Ford compared to the Ram. So that's what this video is about. I've did individual videos and I've underlined things, but I have not compiled, or should I say, I haven't done everything in one video. So I feel like this might be a lengthier video, so buckle up. So I use my trucks. 99% of my use is hauling trailers. So I'm going to talk about why I would buy a Ram over this Ford in that instance. But I also, and on a flip side, in what scenario I'd buy the Ford over the Ram. So let's get to the meat and the potatoes, and let me just talk about both conclusions. Ford's the better all-around truck, but the Ram with the Cummins is the better workhorse. Okay, that's all you need to know. You can shut it down now. Now, if you want details and what I weighed out, my experience, here it goes. So the Ford, why it's a better truck all around, it is produced by one manufacturer, and I've said this over and over. It's produced by Ford, and Ford having the ability to have all this in-house, the engine, so if you haven't thought about it, just think of Lego blocks, right? Lego vehicle. You put everything together, and sometimes you add a stick or something else outside of the Lego kit. It works, yes. Does it work perfect? 99% of the time, no. So you got to think of it that way. Ram has its truck, and they try to piece it together with the Cummins and an Ison, and that's introducing different companies, different technologies, different everything. They make it work, yes. But Ford has it all in-house. Ford builds the truck, the engine, the transmission, the wiring, everything's by Ford. The after treatment, as far as I know, is built by Ford. Just because auto manufacturer runs with a certain thing doesn't mean it's built by them. You guys got to realize a lot of stuff is outsourced, just like Ford. But end of the day, it goes through the same house. It gets implemented, right? The Ford engineering team is a lot closer to Ford than Ison is to Ram. You guys picking up what I'm putting down here? No matter how much Ison hates Ram for putting that cross member there or here, it's never as close. It's never as common. It's never as hands-on. So why am I claiming the Ram's a better truck? Now, exclude my experience in 22. 7 out of the 8 trucks donating. So we're going to completely dismiss that. Stuff happens. It sometimes explodes in your face, but it's just, that's what it is. So we're going to talk about my experience from 14 up until 21. The safety factor of the exhaust brake is leaps and bounds ahead. Okay? Leaps and bounds ahead when it comes to towing Cummins versus Power Stroke. No, the Power Stroke is not going to kill you. No, the Power Stroke isn't a joke on the exhaust brake, but the Power Stroke has a mind of its own. So, yeah, that's the best way I can put it. Ford isn't going to give you anything consistent in manual unless the computer sees a downhill or you being pushed really hard in Excel. It's not going to kick in the exhaust brake, whereas the Cummins will. And it's never, who plans for an accident? Who plans for an emergency? Nobody, right? So you're going down the road and all of a sudden you got to get on the brakes because some Joe Schmo crossed the road in the wrong place. The computer sees a flat ground, and that's great. You floor them brakes and you got all the service brakes in the Ford. But the Cummins packs a punch. You hit those brakes hard enough, you got the service brakes, and then here you go, 2-3 gears downshift, and this thing's just stopping you with the motor. And that's the difference between life and death. Okay, I've had one experience for 10,000 miles in my 23. I really had to get on the brakes, and that's, ever since that incident, I've been bitter with Ford. It's like, for the love of God, just give me it when I need it. I needed that exhaust brake so bad. It was engaged, everything was set up from my side. But it was just on the flat, and Ford didn't care to help me in the time of need. So that's that. There's going to be another video that's going to derive from this video departments, at least out here in Washington, suck. And I mean they suck. Anyways, we're gonna talk about that in another video. So I know they're privately owned, you know, and I know it's just a franchise, this and that, but at the end of the day, those dealerships are privately owned and you guys can't control them. But you guys could definitely incentivize them to. Ram's pretty hard on this. Like, every time you get service, the service rep's like, hey, you're gonna get a link. I really need you to fill that out because it really helps me, and if you don't, I completely understand, but just know it hurts us. Okay, so Chrysler, Stellantis, whoever they are, they emphasize on it a lot, and the crew in the service department is really dependent on those, which is good. It's a crappy way, but it's one way for the manufacturer to keep those dealerships in line. Okay, I'm done with that. Back to this subject. The Ford is the better truck all around because of flow, right? I spoke about the same manufacturer. At the end of the day, they get installed at Ford. Ford has a really good idea with R&D and all this stuff. But also, as much as their turn radius sucks on the Ford, it's because the longer wheelbase compared to Ram. One of these guys on a forum said it'd be nice to turn around in the same zip code, and I laughed, and I knew exactly what he's talking about. Fords, I'm not talking about the 450s. I'm just talking about 250s, 350s, long beds. It just sucks. It's tough. It's not so much for the rack, or should I say the gearbox turning the wheels. It's just a longer wheelbase, and it does show. You know, in tight areas, it does show. You definitely feel it. Because I jump between Ram and Ford sometimes. Majority of my time I'm in this Ford, but sometimes I'll jump in a crew cab long bed Ram, and you definitely feel the difference. Anywho's, the biggest one that stands out to me, the biggest one that stands out to me is how quick this Ford is here. Let's get this thing back up. How quick this Ford is. Like, it's Johnny on the spot. You need to cross 4-lane highway. Off you go. It's a hot rod. It's a phenomenal hot rod, and I love it. The reason I hate it and I won't let employees drive this truck is the same exact reason why I love this truck. So for myself, alrighty, buddy, you're going bye-bye. So as much as I love it, it's an aggressive hot rod. And yes, you could hot rod anything. You could burn it to the ground, and I've had one of those extreme cases. But for the most part, guys, for the most part, the Ford is quite the hot rod, and I love it and I hate it at the same time. So that's the dividing factor. Another one. Well, let's take a step back. We'll go back to business here in a minute. The personal side, daily use side, run around, errand side. Because of the quickness, right? The approach to the vehicle is different, right? I dread flooring a Cummins with an ice, and it's just a sluggish transmission. It's one of the worst transmissions to have to put around town. They're just slow when you're in a hurry. Now, when you're not in a hurry, you got all the time in the world, and yeah, who cares? You're just taking your time. Now, on a flip note, as far as business goes, the guys. Now, I know it's experience and I know it's time. Experience as far as how quick they can get it done. But these Fords are far more complex. Under the hood, they're a lot more jam-packed, less room to work with, far more gaskets and things to deal with. And now, we do work on these Fords in the shop, and we do take care of certain customers. It's a burden. It's a financial burden, Ford versus Cummins. Now, if I were to just leave my guys with Fords, they would be quicker, more efficient. But even the parts, right? We found that the Ford parts are, in certain areas, significantly more expensive. So, back to business. The best way I could divide this, guys, I'm trying to give you all the nitty-gritty reasons, but the best way I could divide this up is when it comes to work, Ram with the Cummins, hands down. As much as I really like my Ford. Yes, this is a 20 percentage loss. It's not. It wasn't sustainable. By God's miracle, we stayed in business. But anyways, the best way I could put this, it's not a rule of thumb, but it just what it shakes down to. When it comes to personal rigs, I would advise everyone to look and seriously consider the GMC and the Ford. But when it comes to work and you just need a good workhorse, just hard to beat that Cummins. It's just hard to beat the efficiency, simplicity. I know there ain't nothing simple about those Cummins nowadays, but overall, compared to the Duramax and the Power Stroke, the Cummins are significantly more simpler, therefore cheaper to maintain. So I've tried once again to separate those two. No, I don't hate this Ford. No, I don't look forward to selling this Ford. It's just I have to do what I have to do, and the best way for me to get ahead is to drive the equipment that my guys are driving. So when I do get those phone calls and when I do things seeing things south, I can address them. Guys, in a lot of cases, my fleet has 300,000 to 400,000 miles on a vehicle before a recall gets ever addressed, ever shipped out, ever inquired, right? When a truck's doing 100 to 120,000 miles a year, right? 3 years later, it's not uncommon to get a recall on something. I was banging on doors when the 4th gen's locking collar would come loose on you. You're going down the road and your wheel keeps moving and moving on you. It's like there's going to be deaths over this. And you go to the dealership and they're looking at you like, what are you talking about? This right here. Well, you got a leveling kit. You mess with it. You're not hearing me, bro. I'm not the only one. My work trucks. Nope. No one gave a rat's tail. Most of my 4th gens were north of 400,000 when I started getting recalls. Oh, this is a serious safety concern. Come by the dealership. Well, those nuts together. Oh, geez, look at you guys go. You figured it out. What did we do? We Loctited them, and that did the trick for us. But yeah, dealerships don't care if they don't have a recall. They just don't care to fix your problem, and sometimes it's a major issue. I remember when I got my Mercedes and the fuel cap cracked, and I kept smelling fuel. I dug up and I found pulling fuel in the fuel pump up top, and I went to the dealership. I'm like, y'all need to cover this. Well, you had a warranty. The hell with the warranty, guys. People are gonna die over this crap. Y'all need a recover. Well, sure as heck, A year and 2 months later, sir, you need to stop driving your vehicle now. Bring it in, tow it in. There's a serious fire concern. No crap, Sherlock. These things are cracking and pulling up fuel up top right in the plug. So what I did is I brought my vehicle back to the dealership. I said, remember me? They're like, yeah, we know. I'm like, well, we still need to change out your fuel tank and everything. So, under warranty, they change out my fuel tank. I'm like, what about my financial loss? And they're like, well, we'll reimburse you. By golly, they did, and I was honestly surprised. That Mercedes reimbursed me. That's an example. Now, these manufacturers, they got their kumbayas to do and their hoops to jump through, but when a guy's out there depending on his truck day in and day out to make a living, we don't have those 3-4 years to wait for something to get recalled. Just that's it. Anyways, fellas, I better wrap this up. Holy smokes, 15 minutes. So party truck, Chevy Ford by default. Work rig, nothing beats a Ram. That's just the best way I could keep it. Back to value. Ram's giving you the value right now compared to Ford and Chevy. And yeah, we're back at it. I'm really looking forward to that 25. Not because I hate this Ford, but because I want to get back in the saddle. I want to get back to testing those Cummins. I want to get my guys back into new Cummins and move on with life. Anyways, as always, may the Lord bless you and